So we've had no real change in terms of hectares burned. In fact, we may have actually reduced. Sorry, I've got to close this window. Live, got a tanker going in the background here. Apologies for that. So we've had a relatively quiet week. Things have gone quite nicely. We've had 11 fires to date, in the last 2 days, all of which were relatively small. I think the largest we had was a 4-hectare activity. That being said, we still have some pockets that have elevated hazard and risk, and we've been talking about that for a while here. Those remain in place in the Okanagan, South Okanagan, excuse me, as well as parts of the Caribou. With the decreased activity with a number of our incidents, we're starting to see the resourcing numbers come down a little bit. We spoke earlier this week of our helicopter fleet at about 100. We're now just over 80. So we're starting to see that decrease in the number of resources we have out supporting. Air tankers also reduced. In terms of our fires of note, we're down to 22, which is also showing that we're trending in the right direction, which is very good and helpful. In terms of the White Rock Lake fire, we still have some challenges with that fire. On the western flank, I think things are looking really good. I've got an update from the incident commander this morning. There still is some concerns around that northeast corner. They were unable to conduct that large-scale ignition operation to secure the flank they were hoping to, just with some of the wind conditions, and it wasn't the right environment, so they put a pause on that. We'll see if the opportunity presents itself to pull that off. Otherwise, they're pretty happy with operations, how things have been going. They're feeling confident that they have a good hold on this. And in the coming days, he's hopeful that he'll be able to provide some recommendations forward around orders and alerts. So we'll stay tuned on that. In terms of our outlook, we're in a bit of a pattern where we're seeing ridge and trough roll through. And it's usually a 2 or 3 day window where we start to see. We're just going through a bit of a ridge phase. Now we'll be transitioning into a trough for about 2 and then back into some ridging on the weekend. That being said, the conditions won't be elevated anywhere that we're concerned, with significant temps. But we will still have those pockets of areas where we will be keeping a closer eye on. In terms of that longer range, we'll be in that troughing ridge sort of predicament for the next 6-7 days. There is a sign on the 8 to 9 day out that there may be some ridging coming back in. Anytime you're looking out that far, it really is somewhat problematic, and you don't want to hedge your bets too much that that's going to play out. So as we get closer, we'll have a better idea what that ridging looks like.
Sorry to interrupt, Todd. We just lost your sound for a moment. If you wouldn't mind just checking your audio.
Maybe I'll switch.
Oh, you're back. You're back. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, I switched microphones there. Not sure where I left off. If you can give me a cue. I was just talking about resources. Did you catch any of that?
Maybe just go back to that last section that you were.
Okay. The resource picture, we're sitting around the 34 to 3,500 range. 1,200 contractors are working. We have 550 out of province personnel supporting. In terms of incoming resources, we're going to have some resources from Alberta that will be arriving, a sustained action crew, as well as some overhead. Parks Canada, we've got a pending crew. In terms of potential down the road, we will have some Quebec resources potentially available early next week. In terms of our departing resources, our Australians will be leaving us this weekend, headed home, as will a number of Quebec resources that will be departing, I believe, Monday, Tuesday next week, as well as the Northwest Territories IMT. So looking ahead here, the Australians, as I mentioned, are departing. We're grateful for the support they provided us. 2 tours of duty. When they return home, they'll be in quarantine. So it was a big commitment that they put forward. So we're very grateful that they've been willing to help out. And it speaks to the resource sharing agreements we have with some of our partners and the willingness to help one another. So very grateful for their efforts. Other than that, we did have an injury today on our Wet Rock Lake fire where a firefighter had a fall down a hill. He was medevaced off the hill and sent to Kelowna Hospital for further checkup. All indications not as serious as initially we were concerned with, but he is getting evaluated by professional medical staff. And one other note I wanted to just raise, in terms of our helicopter usage this year, we've had 38,264 hours flown, which is a record for BC Wildfire Service. And that surpasses our next highest active year, which was in 2017, by 37%. So fairly active utilization of helicopters this summer. And we've had very few safety occurrences or incidents happen. So very pleased to have that report and know that we've been safely operating, and the vendors have been an excellent partner on that front. So that'll conclude my update for today.
Thank you, Todd. Our next speaker will be Peter Brock, Executive Director of Regional Operations with Emergency Management BC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm just going to provide a provincial overview on the latest numbers of evacuation orders and alerts in BC and some other key messaging. So currently in British Columbia, due to the wildfire situation, we have 10 band council resolutions, 22 states of local emergency. There have been some changes in evacuation orders and alerts overnight. So I'll provide you with the numbers as of end of day yesterday, with the caveat that local governments continue to finalize their documentation today on the latest. So as of August 25th, end of day, there are 46 evacuation orders that represent approximately 3,745 properties on order. There are 90 evacuation alerts that represent approximately 7,957 properties on alert. For emergency support services intended to support evacuees, there are 14 reception centers located throughout BC. For the most accurate list of locations of reception centers, please visit our website at Emergency Info BC. And just want to mention, emergency support services is a support program that provides essentials for displaced individuals who do not have alternatives like friends and families or house or travel insurance policies. So those who need emergency support services will receive this support as long as they remain on evacuation order. And there is a process to ensure legitimate need, and each applicant is assessed on a case-by-case basis. And that's by hardworking volunteers at the local level. So that's all I have on my operational update, and happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And a reminder to media, we also have Don Roberts with the BCRCMP on the line for questions. And that concludes the operational updates for today. A reminder to media on the line, also please press *1 at any time to enter the queue, and you will be limited to one question and one follow-up today. Our first question comes from Hina Alam with Canadian Press. Hina, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for this. I was wondering if the emergency service, BC Emergency Service, or the Public Safety Ministry or anyone else is going to have a report on what kind of metals and pollutants are being found in communities destroyed by wildfires such as Lytton, and how long will such a report take?
Yeah, so the Lytton, of course, is expecting to receive that report, and I just know that right now government is working on providing recommendations based on some of the contractors that have been hired to assess that. And so, although I don't have a specific date, that report is expected by the Lytton community, and we're working as best as we can to move that as quickly as possible.
Hina, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I was wondering how long will the cleanup of such a community take, where the entire everything has been destroyed, and what is your main concern about the pollutants or metals found in that area?
Yeah, so I'll take the second part of the question first. As far as the main concern of the pollutants, that obviously has to be addressed in recommendations by professionals or the experts in that field. So we'll wait for that report to identify the pollutants of most concern, and of course the report would identify that. As far as how long the process takes for recovery for communities, just want to mention it's a long process to recover from a significant event like a wildfire that impacts a community. And so government right now and EMBC is leading that effort of coordinating the recovery process for not just provincial government, but also ensuring that we're linked in with nonprofits and federal government. So that process will continue over the fall and for the coming months to just ensure that we're doing everything we can to support residents in the best way we can.
Our next question is from Marcella Bernardo with News 1130. Marcella, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for taking the time to do this. I have to get Todd Nessman to repeat the information about the injury on the White Rock Lake fire because I only caught part of that, and I was hoping to see if you could elaborate on what happened and how serious it was.
You bet. At this point, I have limited information, Marcello. I know that the individual was working on a steep slope, and it sounds like something became dislodged, and he and fell down don't know specifically, but it sounds like he fell down the slope upwards of 100 feet was the report that was given to me. So they were quite concerned initially with his injuries. We medevaced him off the hill, and we had an ambulance meet him on the ground. So having the patient go by ground is a good sign that it wasn't as serious as initially feared, and that we did not have to transport him direct via helicopter to a hospital. So I don't have a great deal more information than that, unfortunately. That's the prelim report that has come forward.
Marcella, do you have a follow-up?
You did, yes, thank you so much, and glad to hear he's not seriously hurt. You did touch a bit about what we're looking for heading into next week. So are we going to be seeing a lot more people allowed to go back home in the areas where the large fires of note are still burning? Like, is it possible to start predicting that already, that within a week we're going to be seeing a lot more evacuation orders lifted?
And I don't know whether Peter wants to jump on that or not, but I think generally speaking, yes, I think that's a fair statement. We've already seen the numbers of alerts and orders drop significantly in the last 7 days to the point where folks are being allowed back in. Some of the bigger fires like White Rock Lake, we still have some concerns, like I spoke of earlier, that we don't want to have people go back too early, and make sure everything is taken care of from a safety perspective, as well as the the fire environment perspective. So I think we are trending in the right direction. We will continue to see those alerts and orders reduced over time. And maybe I'll throw to Peter if he wants to add anything further to that.
Yes, I would echo Todd's comments there. We're certainly seeing that trend for alerts and orders being decreased by the day. Just last night, we saw some obviously variations in that head in that direction for reduction or downgrades in orders. So I think all signals are pointing to that continuing. But to Todd's point there, with some of those key fires, there certainly remains that concern, and that will be determined on a case-by-case basis moving forward. Thank you.
Our next question is from Nick Johansson, Castanet. Nick, please go ahead.
Hi there. This question is for Mr. Brock. I've spoken to some evacuees from the White Rock Lake fire who's telling me that their hotel vouchers and other services are set to expire tomorrow. They were at the ESS reception center here in Kelowna this morning and couldn't get any answers from the volunteers there, and they're feeling frustrated and concerned about what the next few days might look like. Do you have any advice for what these people can do to access information about an uncertain future for a lot of these people?
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say we really understand that it's a very difficult time for people that have been evacuated from their homes and are looking for those supports. So it's a challenging time, and I just want to acknowledge that first and foremost. Best place to obviously learn more about emergency support services and how those apply on a case-by-case basis is certainly the reception centers. I happen to know for this evening, there is a Regional District Central Okanagan meeting being scheduled tonight to try to address some of the questions that the public may have regarding emergency support services. And I know Insurance Bureau of Canada plans to be there as well to help address any of those questions, and as well as the EMBC staff. So I think that's a great place to start. but certainly not lost on us that this is a challenging time for evacuees, and we want to do everything we can to support them, particularly for those that are evacuated and don't have friends and family support, don't have alternatives like insurance, home insurance or travel insurance. We want to make sure that they get the support they need. Thank you.
Our next question today comes from Nick Schlisser with, sorry.
I got a follow-up.
Oh, sorry. My
question?
apologies. Yes, Nick, please go ahead.
This is for Mr. Nessman. Turning to the Mount Law fire out in West Kelowna here, the fire appeared to have jumped the highway this morning and near the Highway 97 and 97C interchange. I think it caused a bit of a spook for a lot of Peachland residents nearby there. I understand there's been a number of controlled ignitions going on in that area over the past couple of days. Just looking to see, was that did that controlled ignition get out of hand and make that jump? I know there was some wind pretty early this morning in that area.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't know the specifics of the Mount Law fire and what transpired this morning. I think the one thing I will touch on there that it speaks volumes to the volatility of the situation in the Okanagan, and that things can change fairly rapidly here. Hence why we're cautious with some of these incidents and fires we're dealing with here. I don't have a great deal more information on that fire that I can offer you, unfortunately, at this time.
And our next question is from Cole Schisler from Black Press. Cole, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks so much. This question is for Todd Nessman. In the last update, you had talked about how several firefighters had been testing positive for COVID and that the BC Wildfire Service is closely monitoring COVID outbreaks at camps. We've received some word that there has been a COVID outbreak at a camp and firefighters were told not to get tested and to keep working despite COVID symptoms. Do you have any comment on that? And is that behavior, I guess, what punishments or measures are in place to prevent that kind of behavior that would keep firefighters working even if they do have COVID symptoms?
Yeah, that's troubling to hear because it's the exact opposite messaging that we've been working with. We're taking it very seriously with COVID. We're working with not only our staff, but the vendor community who have been coming to our instance to make sure everybody is working in a safe environment. And, we're providing testing for staff and we're trying to work through it with everyone to make sure it's understood. It's for the greater good that everyone takes those precautions. Under no circumstances would we ever encourage firefighters to work who are unwell in that, whether it be COVID, whether it be any, in past years, what we'd call camp crud, which is, just the sickness that flows through our fire camps. That's the last thing we want to see in camps is any type of sickness. And so, to hear that, I'd like to learn more specifically if that is being reported or being communicated to people, because it's not the messaging and not the approach that we want to advocate.
Cole, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, could you shed a bit of light on what the process is for when firefighters do become infected with COVID-19? Like, is there a quarantine spot at the camps? Do they get sent to a hotel? What happens when firefighters are do test positive for COVID?
So if we do have firefighters being tested, there's how it's working right now is we are handling rapid antigen testing ourselves on site in many different locations. So we conduct that rapid test ourselves. If it comes back positive, we then do a second test to ensure it wasn't a false positive. Once we have a second confirmed positive, then we're reaching out and having the individuals work through the local health authority to make sure that a proper PCR test can be conducted. And so that's when we are then working through, in the case of around the Okanagan, we're working through Interior Health to make sure that's facilitated. So in the interim, while someone is kind of in between that stage of having a point of care rapid test conducted and waiting for a PCR test, we'll work to isolate that individual and get them into a removed location, depending on where they're at, whether it's in a hotel or whether that's in a facilitated camp that's away from a regular camp setup. We work through our COVID coordinators that are at the incident level to ensure that that's taken care of and we're not increasing exposure to any other firefighters.
Our next question is from Colton Davies with Radio NL. Colton, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for doing this. Just curious, do we have a number on how much money has been spent now at this point this season on firefighting, and how might that compare to the previous record fire seasons we had in 2017 and 2018?
Yes, I don't know how much has been communicated publicly on this. We are below our 2017-18 numbers at this point. And I just want to confirm, Colton, what is being communicated, and maybe you can help me out on that front if numbers have been communicated to you at all or not. So apologies on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't heard any. Not recently, anyways. So last I saw, it was probably just below 200 million, but maybe I've missed an update. But that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, no, we're well above 200 million. We're not into the record territory yet, by any means, but I believe we're in the fours now. 400.
Colton, do you have a follow-up?
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that answer. Thank you for that. And I mostly asked with 2017-18 because I know on your website it's a little north of 600 million for both of those years. So I appreciate that number update. But I was curious too. You mentioned the injury on the White Rock Lake fire today. I know there was a pretty significant injury at the Sparks Lake fire on July 7th with a Merritt firefighter ending up in intensive care with burns. I was wondering would you happen to have an update on how that firefighter is doing? And how would you say that this season has been in terms of injuries on the front lines, perhaps compared to other years?
In terms of the Merritt firefighter, I know he's been going through treatment and rehab, and I haven't heard a great deal recently, unfortunately. I think I don't want to over speak to that, not having specific details on how he's doing recovery-wise. We had been receiving pictures. It's been a while since I've got an update on how he's doing overall, so I don't want to speak too much on that. In terms of injuries overall, we have had a number of injuries. We haven't had some of the more serious ones that some of our partner agencies have seen. And like, for example, 2 days ago in Oregon, a firefighter was killed from falling a tree hitting him. So the hazards are out there. We've been very fortunate. We have had close calls, but we haven't had any of those, what I would categorize, a significant life-altering injuries with our staff. We have had quite a few of the smaller varieties. They're occurring anytime you have 3,500 people out working. Accidents, incidents will occur. We're fortunate that they haven't been of the serious, what I'll categorize as a serious nature, and that staff have been managing the season quite well.
That concludes today's information update. Our next scheduled update is set for Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Thanks everyone for joining.